What if the biggest threat to your cybersecurity wasn't a computer virus or a hacker in a dark room, but rather someone you interact with on a daily basis? In the realm of cybersecurity, we often picture threats as complex coding or an unknown enemy hidden behind a screen. But what if I told you that one of the most significant threats is far more familiar? This threat is known as social engineering. Social engineering is a form of manipulation that aims to deceive individuals into surrendering confidential information. It's not a new concept, but in today's digital age, it has taken on a whole new level of significance. It's the art of exploiting human psychology, rather than technical hacking skills. It's about making you trust, making you fear, making you do things you wouldn't normally do, and in the process, you give away your most valuable asset: information. Social engineering, a threat often overlooked, yet poses a substantial risk to personal and organizational security. Why does social engineering work? The answer lies in our human nature. Social engineering is not about cracking codes or hacking servers. It's about hacking the human mind. It's about understanding psychology and exploiting the vulnerabilities that reside not in our systems, but in our behaviors, emotions, and decisions. It's about tapping into our trust, our curiosity, our fear, and our desire to help others. Take, for instance, the infamous Nigerian prince scam. An email arrives in your inbox from a so-called Nigerian prince who promises you a vast fortune in return for a small help. It's a classic example of social engineering, playing on people's greed and trust. Despite its notoriety, people still fall for it. Why? Because it leverages the fundamental human nature of trust and the desire for easy gains. Or consider the case of Kevin Mitnick, one of the most notorious hackers in history. Mitnick didn't just use code to break into systems. He used social engineering. He would pose as a fellow employee or a trusted vendor, manipulate people into divulging passwords or other sensitive information. He played on people's tendency to trust and to avoid conflict. And it's not just about deception and manipulation. Social engineering also exploits our natural tendencies to take shortcuts. For instance, how often do you click on a link without thoroughly checking where it leads? Or download an attachment without verifying its source? These are common behaviors that social engineers exploit. So what do these examples tell us? They remind us that we're not dealing with faceless, emotionless machines. We're dealing with people with emotions, biases, and blind spots. And that's what makes social engineering so effective and so dangerous. In the world of cybersecurity, we often focus on technological solutions. We install firewalls, we update our software, we encrypt our data, but we often overlook the most unpredictable and vulnerable part of our systems: us, the humans. As these cases illustrate, the human element often becomes the weakest link in the chain of cybersecurity. It's not just about the Nigerian prince anymore. Social engineering has evolved and taken on many forms. Let's look at the most common types of social engineering attacks. First up, we have phishing. This involves sending fraudulent emails that seem to come from legitimate sources. An example is an email posing as your bank, asking you to confirm your details due to a security breach. The aim is to trick you into revealing sensitive information like passwords or credit card numbers. Next, there's pretexting. This is where the attacker creates a fabricated scenario to manipulate you into giving up information. For instance, they might pretend to be a tech support agent, claiming they need your password to fix an issue with your account. Then we have baiting. This method lures victims with the promise of a reward. For example, a hacker might leave a USB stick labeled "employee salary details" in a company car park. An unsuspecting employee might pick it up, plug it into their computer, and unknowingly install malware. Quid pro quo attacks are another form of social engineering. Here, the attacker offers a service or benefit in exchange for information or access. Imagine a scenario where someone calls random numbers at a company, claiming to be returning a tech support call. They might get lucky and find an employee who's been having computer problems. The attacker then gets the victim to install software to fix the issue, which is actually malicious software. Finally, there's tailgating. This is a physical method of social engineering where an attacker seeks entry into a restricted area by following an authorized person. For example, they might pretend to be a delivery person and tailgate into a secured office building. These methods all have one thing in common: exploiting human psychology to bypass security systems. It's a fascinating and terrifying world where our own behavior can be our biggest vulnerability. So, now that we understand the threat, how can we protect ourselves and our organizations from social engineering? The first line of defense is always knowledge. Being aware of the tactics and strategies social engineers use is paramount. Education programs that highlight the different forms of social engineering and how to spot them can be instrumental in safeguarding against these invisible threats. Next, we need to implement strict protocols for information sharing. This means enforcing a need-to-know basis for sensitive information and promoting a culture of skepticism towards unsolicited requests for data. Regularly updating these protocols and ensuring they are adhered to can drastically reduce the risk of a successful social engineering attack. Equally important is maintaining good digital hygiene. This refers to practices like regularly updating and patching systems, using strong, unique passwords, and employing two-factor authentication whenever possible. It's like washing your hands in the digital world. It's simple, but it can prevent a lot of problems. Furthermore, organizations can use simulated attacks to test their defenses and identify areas for improvement. This proactive approach can provide invaluable insights into where vulnerabilities lie and how to strengthen them. So, to wrap it up, protecting yourself and your organization from social engineering is a multifaceted task. It requires education, strict protocols, good digital hygiene, and proactive testing. Remember, a well-informed individual is the best defense against social engineering. In the end, social engineering exploits our trust, our willingness to help, and our natural curiosity. We've unpacked the essence of this invisible threat, how it leverages human psychology for malicious ends, and the myriad forms it can take. We've also discussed strategies to fortify ourselves and our organizations against these tactics. The key is awareness and constant vigilance. Stay vigilant, stay educated, and remember, not everyone who asks for information has a right to receive it.